Bryant for MMA H.E.A.T. I'm here with Jake Ellenberger, who will be facing Nate Marquardt at UFC 158 in Montreal. And we haven't been down to rain in a little while. It's good to see you. I'm curious how your camp has been going this time, because I know Rafa's been gone, who you often train with, Rafael Cordero, and they know with Fabricio Verdum, some of these guys have been down in Brazil. So how'd your camp go?
It's been going great. You know, Rafael's been in Brazil, like you said. I've been working with a couple of his top Muay Thai students, you know, and a lot of the same stuff that Rafael and I have been working on for the past couple of years. So not a lot's been, you know, changing, more just strategy-wise for this fight specifically. But I've been doing a lot with my boxing coach, just getting faster, working a lot on my speed.
It's interesting. We were just kind of talking off camera here about, you're saying you're getting faster, getting better. You know, you've been in the UFC for a little while now. This is your 10th fight, which is incredible. I mean, how much do you feel yourself still improving? Do you know how much on the upswing are we still seeing you?
You know, I feel like I get better each week. You know, like you see something new you haven't seen before, and that's the fascinating part about the sport is there's so much to learn. You know, you got to constantly evolve and innovate too. So even fight to fight, you know, I look at myself and say, okay, what is my opponent not seeing yet? You know, what can I do that if he was watching my film, what is he? You know, what am I going to do that he hasn't seen yet? So that's the, you know, really the struggle of the game, is really continually to innovate and to move forward.
Yeah, there's a lot I want to talk to you about, but first I guess we should talk about the fact that you are fighting Nate Marquardt instead of Johny Hendricks. How'd that day go? I mean, because that was going to be, I think, I kind of liked that matchup of you and Johny better than you and Nate. No, nothing against Nate, but I kind of was more excited to see you and Johny mix it up. Yeah,
you know, I think stylistically it's going to be a good matchup. And I think that's why Joe and Dana made the matchup too. You
right, know? They kind of know a couple things.
I'm familiar with Johny. I'm sure he's familiar with me. You know, I was really looking forward to that fight. You know, he's in a good position. He's, you know, number one contender, arguably. So it's for me, there's no quicker way to the title, no quicker way to the top, and you know, it's out of my control really. So I'm more focused on what I'm going to do and what I got to do to win. So you know, eventually I'm gonna get there, but you know, I'm still waiting for Johny. We'll meet eventually.
So, and when that happens, because from when I looked at the rankings lately, I think they have you at number 6 in welterweight, and like you said, he's number 1 contender. So obviously, if something happens, they call him first. Is that how it goes? Because of the rankings? Like, why is it that you think he got to change his opponent and you didn't both get called at the same time? Is that why?
You know, I would say because he's ranked a little higher than me. I mean, Dana, you know, like I said, it's the UFC staff. It's their job to really make matchups, and I mean Carlos is, you know, still one of the top guys in Division 2. So it's still going to be an exciting fight. That's going to be a fun fight to watch too. I think Carlos is tricky, and he's going to give Johny a lot of problems. You know, and in my head, I feel the things that Johnny's good at, I think that I'm just as good at, if not better. You know, and he's a little bit newer to the transition in wrestling and MMA. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of credentials in wrestling, but it's a different style in MMA and in fighting, different setups, and so you know, that's something I was really excited about is showcasing that against Johny specifically. But again, that's over. Moving forward, and you know, Nate Marquardt here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, was there a part of you though that was looking for that rematch with Carlos? Was there a part of you thinking like it could shake out that you could get Carlos?
Yeah, potentially. I didn't even know that that Rory got hurt until I got, you know, my manager called me, hey, Johnny's out, you know, now we got to find somebody else. So I assumed Johny got hurt, but then it was like Carlos. It was just kind of one of those weird days. I thought like 151 all over again. Like
well, and I remember too. I even texted you that day, and I said, I hope you get somebody good. You know what I mean? And then when it was Marquardt, I was like, oh, you got somebody good. Like that's going to be exciting. So I want to talk about how you feel about him. You know, he's coming back, and we saw what he did in the fight against Tarek Saffiedine. Didn't check a lot of those kicks, and I don't know if that's, you know, something that you're thinking. Obviously, I know that works, but how do you feel like you match up against Nate and his style?
Very well. You know, Nate's very well rounded. You know, he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. We have a lot of mutual friends. You know, I grew up in Nebraska. He's in Colorado. I have a lot of friends in Colorado as well, and you know, Nate's a tough fight for anybody. So really, I'm still focused on, you know, what I'm good at, what I'm going to do to win this fight, and you know, he's been fighting top guys for years. You know, he fought the best guys at 185. You know, some guys that are good friends of mine. So I'm really familiar with Nate. He's got a lot of power. You know, he's always dangerous. So I'm not as focused on you know what he's good at. It's more what I got to do to win this fight and move forward.
Yeah. I also, the other day when we were confirming all this, I wrote to you when I was watching your fight with Diego Sanchez. I was prepping for my stuff at Fuel. That was a really intense fight. I'm wondering what you feel like you learned from that fight. That was a good victory for you, but you know, in the end, it got a little dicey for you.
No, for sure. And it's funny because people, they still to this day are like, did you get tired? You look like you got a little tired. I'm like, I got tired. You're working really hard. Have you been in a fight before? Have you seen it?
Have you been to the third round?
If you're going at a high pace, you're gonna get tired. I mean, you know, I'm not doing steroids. I'm not doing any like performance enhancement. I don't do things that are gonna make me recover in a day. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm gonna get tired. You know, that was a fun fight. I mean, Diego's a guy who's always exciting to watch, and always a guy you look forward to watching. So. That was a high-paced fight, though. Definitely, probably the highest-paced fight I've had so far, for sure.
And did that make you think about working on certain angles of your game a little bit more since you almost got caught?
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, especially the transition game. You know, like I've been working on it a lot, obviously with Mark here, but not getting complacent. You know, it takes. You know, you get tired, and that's when it starts to matter. You know, it only matters. With the things you're good at, your technique, it matters when you get tired. So it's like the first round, it doesn't really matter. You know, you lose it, whatever, you win it. You got 10 more minutes to fight. So really, you find out a lot more about yourself second and third round. So really, for me, it's just been able to work harder and move, you know, constantly move my feet later in the rounds. You know, and I got great guys here that are always pressuring me, but it goes back to the same. You know, we're constantly innovating and trying to do something different. You know, for me, I gotta continually do something different.
Did you think he won his fight the other night at 150? I mean, at UFC on Fuel. I kind of didn't think he won.
I was leaning towards Gomi.
Yeah.
You know, it was a close fight. But I mean, just on that octagon control, pressure forward, I was going to give it to Gomi.
Yeah, it was a really close. It was close, and I kind of thought he didn't, and I also thought, oh, you know, it's a ring rust. I felt like I built up the backstory for it to be okay that you know it didn't go his way that night, and then he got it, and I was like, wow, all right.
In Japan too.
Yeah.
You know, that was a little bit surprising, but. You never know with the judges. You
never know. Well, we should talk about the division that, you know, Diego went down from welterweight back to 155, and I want to talk about, obviously, your fight coming up is almost like a welterweight tournament. People are usually on one side or the other about Nick Diaz getting the fight with George and whether or not, you know, he should come off a loss and get a title shot. I'm just curious how you feel about it.
You know, I don't disagree with that decision. You know, Nick's always been one of the top guys at the weight class, so you know it's an exciting fight. It sells tickets. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it sells tickets. So you can't disagree with that. People want to see Nick Diaz fight. You know, and you know whether or not you think he's going to beat George is irrelevant. I mean, people want to see the fight, so you know that's the match they made. But you know, a lot of things don't make sense. And, you know, and it's funny because I don't like to even words like deserve and they're really meaningless. You know what I mean? It's like because I've seen it in wrestling, I've seen it in lots of competitive sports. Like people work their whole life towards one goal and they'll never reach it, or they'll never even, you know, make a national tournament or win a national title. It's like it's not about what you deserve, you know what I mean? It's about really what you earn. And but I don't disagree with that fight. Nick and George is going to be it's a big draw. It really is.
Who do you think wins?
I'm going to go with George.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably decision. You know, he's a hard guy he's a really athletic, hard guy to fight, but his timing is amazing.
Well, at least we know, you know, the way Nick fights too, though, he won't get tired. Like, you'll get a full fight out of those two. You know what I mean? A good paced fight if it goes all the way. I think it's going to be exciting.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, people love watching Nick fight. I like watching Nick fight. He's a great fighter to watch, and he'll fight for 5 rounds. So that's regardless if it goes to decision, you know, you're gonna see a fight, and he doesn't care if he gets taken down. You know what I mean? He's great on the ground too. Yeah.
Do you think he beat Carlos?
That could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Just depends how you score the rounds,
right.
you know.
Right.
He was definitely pressuring, moving forward, but I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it, to be honest.
Well, the other thing is that when we came here and we started the conversation, we were kind of reminiscing about the first time we came here to see you.
Yeah.
It was a couple years ago, and you know, it's funny, every time I come and see you, I'm like, wow, Jake looks more and more like a fighter every time, and I'm gonna have to put up a side-by-side picture because you were so fresh-faced and, you know, like a nice, clean young kid, and you're still a nice, clean young man, but you know, you're really a fighter now. I mean, are you aware? I mean, you come here all the time, but like, are you like that aware of the accomplishments you've already made, and you know what kind of a standard you're setting for other guys coming up? And just, I mean, because everybody knows your work ethic is amazing. You're always in, you know, great shape. You're just a solid guy. I mean, do you feel like a ambassador now for these young kids or a role model?
I do. Yeah. And I appreciate the compliment, but you look at like 2.5 years ago, you know, when I first started training here. I mean, I kind of still have the same mindset, the same work ethic, but you know, I guess I don't see the progression as much as other people do. I should say, like my boxing coach and just kind of people on the outside. But you know, for me, it's just consistency. You know, that's always been like the big, the word I should say, discipline and consistency. Because I mean, I don't enjoy fighting. Let's be honest, it's a rough sport. I mean, I enjoy the competition, and I love the win. So obviously, I want to reach my goals, and you know, it's not a sport I want to be doing when I'm 35. I don't want to be fighting. I want to reach my goals, and you know what I mean, I got to stay focused. But just being consistent, training consistently, moving forward. So what will you do then when you're done fighting? You know, I don't know. I would like to possibly get into maybe as an analyst or something. That'd be fun. I can see you at the desk. Maybe sitting next to you. I was gonna say I can see you at the desk. We could do some pre-fights, post-fights. You know? That'd be good. That'd be great. Well, speaking of discipline, I have something for you here. I'm just gonna read out of it. You, we talked about the Girl Scout cookies that you wanted to order from my daughter. I brought a couple extra. We'll see. But you said you like the peanut butter without the chocolate. My favorite. So this is the Do-si-dos. So I figured you maybe two. I didn't know how many you wanted, and so I brought you two. But then I didn't know if you were down with Thin Mints and Samoas as well. I do like those as well. Okay. Why? I do, thank you. And so I figured, we can figure out how many you want. And you know what, Jake, when you get these, like the calories don't count because it's for charity. I mean, Girl Scouts are a charity, right? Yeah. So these. It doesn't matter. Yeah, and so I figured you're so good and you're so disciplined that you'll just wait till after your fight. But, we made sure that we brought. Wait, they're closed, they're sealed. That's a good thing. That's good. Absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah. So we'll figure it out. And my daughter appreciates you because, it's her first time selling them. So, like, really? every bit helps. And, it's good. It's good. Oh, she's a cutie. Yeah, well, thank you. And I wish you the best of luck. I know, I don't think you've been in a boring fight yet. You know what I mean? That's why people like Jake Shields are starting to call you out again, right? He wants that fight back, right? I heard that. Yeah. I was reading about that, and I guess that's true, but he wants that back. You know. Yeah. Would you give it to him? Sure. Sure. Why not? I mean, yeah, right. It went your way the first time. That's the thing too. Is like, I've never picked who I fought in the sport. I mean, that's not my job. You know what I mean? And that's one of the frustrating things with Johnny. Asking for the fight with Carlos. I understand it, but when you're in that position, I feel like I've never picked a fight. You know what I mean? I've never. So if you're the best in the world, you fight who they tell you to fight. So that was the frustrating part with that whole situation. But again, it's over. I'm looking forward to Nate Marquardt. He was the first guy they threw at me. So yeah, for sure. Nice. All right. Well, thanks again for your time, and enjoy those in a couple weeks. You got to, Maybe tonight. All right. Thanks a lot, Jake. Thanks, Karyn.
We got some big fights coming up again this week, and so we're training the rating on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Good job. Good job. We're gonna keep the ball rolling. Coach, put those ring guys. Yes, sir. That wrestling makes you tired, huh? Yeah. That's what men do. True.